Hello there and welcome to our viewers around the world. I am Imoni Amarire. Nigeria is today a nation fraught with conflicts, some of them deadly and extremely disruptive. As we speak, Nigerians are waiting with bated breath for the release of unspecified number of abducted schoolboys, staff, and their families of Government Science College in Kagara, Niger State. The kidnapping, which occurred less than a week ago, only serves to spotlight the failing security architecture of the nation. The deteriorating state of security continues to threaten the continuous existence of the state as we know it. From north to south, citizens are living in fear of what could happen next. With almost daily reports of communal clashes across the country, occasioned by several factors, including the activities of criminal elements, fueling, as it were, mutual suspicion and ethnic tensions, the resonance of our nation threatening to fall apart grows louder and louder by the day. With insurgency running for well over 10 years and kidnapping, banditry, and other violent crimes, now the order of the day, Nigerians have continued to call on government to rise to the occasion. Probably the biggest challenge facing the nation today is how to manage the conflicts, turn them into constructive assets rather than destructive and fundamental problems. Many dispute government's stance that the security situation in the country has improved relative to the pre-2015 era. In fact, data shows that the lingering conflicts between herders and farmers in several parts of the country is rated 6 times deadlier than the Boko Haram insurgency. Analysts argue that rising insecurity marked by kidnappings and vicious attacks on local communities, amongst others, described as banditry, are in actual fact terrorism. They say a lot of groups have found safe havens in parts of the country, and attacks like the Kankara and Kagara abductions bear the operational footprints of the Boko Haram, perfected through previous abductions. Just a few days ago, former head of state General Abdulsalami Abubakar warned that Nigeria could disintegrate if the violence and other security challenges across the country are not immediately curtailed. General Abubakar is not alone in his reading of the situation. Many other Nigerians and non-Nigerians alike are concerned. How far is the government ready to go to address the root causes of the perceived injustices that engender the conflicts, which could in turn degenerate into total breakdown of law and order and possibly civil strife? What can and should be done to put in place an enduring peace architecture and infrastructure for Nigeria? On the program today, we shall do a deep dive into the reality of the situation and provide ways to come back from the brink with the unity of the nation intact and a sustainable peace for development. We'll get to meet our guests right after now. Stay with us. All right, thank you so much for staying with us. We're looking at peace building in Nigeria, peace building in a fractured society. As of today, there are so many interruptions in our normal daily lives that it is important that we begin to think of building peace. And I'm joined in the studio, right here in the studio, by Dr. Takwa Zebulon Suifon, who is the Peace and Development Advisor to the United Nations Resident Coordinator and the UN system in Nigeria. Dr. Suifon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Also joining us virtually via Zoom is His Eminence, John Cardinal Onaikan, former Metropolitan Archbishop of Abuja, former President, Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, an author. In fact, he authored the book, Seeking Common Grounds, Inter-Religious Dialogue in Africa. His Eminence, Cardinal John Onaikan. Thank you so much, Your Eminence, for joining us. Great to have you on. Right, so.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much, sir. All right, let's proceed this way, Dr. Suifon. Let's look at the situation in Nigeria. You are a noted expert in peace building. The situation we have on our hands in Nigeria today, kidnappings, banditry, insurgency, herders, farmers clashes, all seem to coalesce, come together to create a lot of tension. In fact, someone told me a few days ago that in Nigeria, and especially so in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, where we seem to be having or living in a false sense of security, and that the tension seems to be mounting from all around the country.
Definitely, Mark. Thank you for having me here. And it is a pleasure to join the Nigerians and the global community to reflect on what is happening in Nigeria today. I just want to begin by saying that Nigeria is a very important partner and an actor at the international scene in global politics and global peace. And so what is happening in Nigeria is a concern not only to the United Nations, but to many partners and the world at large. And Mark, yes, these past weeks and days we have been touched by the images and the headlines on the news. But I want to say one thing, that conflict and crisis is a part of human life. As you have said, Nigeria has been resilient in dealing with these conflicts over the years. Nigeria had put strategies in place, and I'm happy you have John Cardinal Onaikan, who has been a very prominent actor in the inter-religious dialogue in Nigeria over time. Our universities in Nigeria have been conducting a lot of research, doing a lot of work, and saying what we should do. But I also agree that most times we talk issues of peace and security, talk and sometimes forget and divert our attention to some other issues. So the question we'll have to ask is, how have we invested so much in peace? Even if you invest so much, it doesn't mean that peace will not come. How are we ready to respond to the emerging crisis? These are the issues. And if there are issues, how can we do better? So when we orient our questions in a very actionable way, we will then move away from sentiments and then see how we can talk. And I'm happy from your intro that that's how you coined this discussion. How can we all mobilize, use this challenge at this particular moment as a rallying point, as a rallying force for all Nigerians, knowing fully well that if things go beyond the precipice, as former President Abdul Salami warned the other day, then we all will live with regret. Not only in Nigeria, children unborn will hold us account that this generation failed them. And what will we say? What can we do? There's a lot we can do. And that's what we're going to discuss this day.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's turn our attention to His Eminence, Cardinal John Onaikan. Your Eminence, you were in Mina over the weekend, and you did express a lot of concern about the insecurity in many parts of the country today. Let's begin by asking you to reflect on the situation as we have it on ground today in Nigeria. In different parts of the country, there are hues and cries. There is a lot of anger, as it were, from very different parts of the country about the situation we find ourselves.
Thank you very much, and thanks for bringing me into this very important discussion. To answer your question, the answer for me is simple and straightforward. The fact is, what we have on ground now in Nigeria, at least the vast majority of Nigerians are saying, this is not where we should be. That the state of insecurity has reached a stage that it is no longer sustainable, and that we ought not to allow it to continue to degenerate. There is also the seeking common grounds, because we must seek common grounds. There is a common agreement, I hope, that the reason why we have our government is that they will indeed deal with situation, the kind that we have on our hands right now. It has been said over and over again that the primary role of government is to assure security of life and property. When we say primary aim, it means when that primary aim is not being achieved, the government has lost all sense of relevance. We cannot live in a country without government. We are not asking for a perfect government. It doesn't exist anywhere. But at least there's a minimum of competence and interest in that government should show its existence, such that we can trust that we are in good hands. The whole idea and our resources to a group of people to make sure that we are safe. We have been talking about people who are carrying guns who ought not to be carrying guns. And that if those people cannot be disarmed, it means we're in trouble, because it means therefore that you are leaving us unarmed, open victims to be dealt with by all kinds of criminals. And so we have reached a stage. There is a statement I have used more than once in public lectures, namely that in Nigeria we have devised the art of dancing on the brink of chaos. And we cannot continue to count on our good luck to be able to dance without falling into the chaos. Who is most responsible, therefore, to bring us out of this chaos is definitely those whom we have put, or who have managed to put themselves in the position of political leadership. The rest of us will do our best. And we are not saying that everything depends on government. But if government is not doing its part, and it is not taking action that will support the effort of the ordinary citizens at different levels, then we are left with a very terrible feeling. Namely, is it that the government is unable to defend us and protect us, or is it that the government is unwilling to do so? Now, it is dangerous. Whichever way it goes, it is dangerous. If the government is unable, then the honorable thing to do is to look for another way of handling issues. This is where my remark in Mina is relevant. I did not say clearly that the government should quit, because government quit is neither here nor there. But I'm saying that government has reached a stage where it should understand and admit that we are unable, we are not succeeding. Therefore, we need as much hands, other Nigerians, to join hands, and that this matter is beyond PDP, APC, or whatever political parties. And it covers every part of Nigeria, as you have said. So can we now realize and admit that we are in a terrible situation? There is emergency on our hands, and there are enough brains in this country to work out a solution that will stop the rot. Otherwise, we will continue to dance around in circles, maybe eventually allow this country to go into chaos. I hope those who are ruling us are aware of this and that they don't want this to happen. But let them know that they have to do more than we are seeing now in order to convince us that they are first able to do it, secondly, willing to do it. Hello?
Yes, Cardinal, thank you so much. Yes, we are with you, Cardinal.
Am I cut off?
No, you are still with us. You are still with us. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, Cardinal. Let me do a follow-up to that. The follow-up to that is the fact that at the moment, I mean, you just talked about the fact that government should seek some input and assistance even from outside the government to find lasting solutions to some of these problems.
So maybe to hear from my colleague.
All right, Cardinal. We'll get back to you very quickly and hoping that the network gets much better. But Dr. Sufyan, let's look. You see, as at last year, Nigeria was ranked as the 14th most fragile state in the world. And it's a combination of many of all of these issues, many of all these factors, many of these conflicts and crises that we have here that probably drove Nigeria to that very unenviable record. Now, to begin with, what do we need to do? It appears that even at government level, there doesn't seem to be either enough ideas or enough political will to do that, which could reverse this situation. Where do the people come in here?
Thank you very much, Mark. And that question is very, very, very pertinent. But let me draw your attention that at the global level, at the level of the United Nations, there was this realization that if certain things are not done, then the world was going to head to a very difficult direction. That is the reason why you heard of the MDGs, they transforming into the SDGs, and they talk of people, planet, peace, prosperity, and all this. And then they're grouping those various SDGs to say, what are we doing to enhance the people factor, the human capacity, dealing. What are we doing, to enhance, protect the climate or planet from climate change related issues that we're all talking about. But let me narrow it to give perspective to your question. I think this is a very challenging situation that Nigeria is going through. And as the Cardinal has said, it looks like something is not happening somewhere. But I believe that we need to reflect now and bring the agenda for peace on the table. Sometimes in the past, when we talk about peace, it hasn't been the subject of this. When we talk about it, sometimes because of some commissions say, let us pray for it, and we end. It's almost there. What is the action that we've been taking all this far in bringing the enabling environment? You know very well that even when we talk at the United Nations globally, which Nigeria is a leading partner, we say peace is the enabler. Peace as the enabling SDG 16. And interestingly, it talks about peace, justice, peace, and inclusion. That means when people feel a sense of exclusion, the peace is not complete. When people feel a sense of injustice, the peace is not complete. And that SDG 16 should be one of the issues that we need to put in our table and begin to decipher it, break it down. how we in Nigeria can do something around it. And Nigeria has been also leading, Mark, in this whole issue. You mentioned in your intro, the architectures for peace, supporting and pushing. And as we are talking, there are states that have already come out with legislation. I'm sure Kaduna, for example, has a state commission for peace. Plateau State has a Plateau Peace Agency. Adamawa State is coming up, have Adamawa Peace Agency. Taraba State they are finalizing it. Benue and issue. But they should not do these things in isolation. Everybody should know that every other thing that we're doing will go down to nil if there's no enabling environment. There's no way we're going to progress where there's insecurity. There's no way the indicators, like you have just said, Nigeria indicators looking at the negative. With all the potential, look at the potential that Nigeria has. Everybody in the world knows. And that's why even when there's tension and conflict going on, people are still coming to invest because they see a future here. Why are we not seeing that future, we who are sitting around the port? And Mark, one of the things I want to say before it gets off my mind is that one of the first things was to look at how the governance structure is. When we say security, it may become a little bit challenging, where people say, we don't discuss A, B, C, and D. Let's look at the governance structure. Let's look at how the structure is. And like somebody told me, he said, when you have the opportunity, look at it. Let's put the pyramid upside down and begin to focus. We have 700 and something, 140 local government areas.
774 local
What
government.
is the investment we are making what is the investment we are making in those 740 local government areas? That's where life has to begin. That is the grassroots. That's where the roots and everything has to anchor. And then we will grow and produce the fruit until, when we're talking the apex, it should be the reflection of what is happening on the ground. The Chinese have this policy, Mark, I don't know. Sometimes because of this world and the global, when we are talking, China, despite every other thing, very stable and progressing because they have a very strong structure on how, at their local level, where do. And leadership emanates from the local, right to do. There's no way you can suddenly bounce and be a president in China when they do not know what you have done at the community level, at every level of Chinese leadership. That is something that we need to begin to reflect in Africa, and particularly in Nigeria. Where is the local government area since it was institutionalized? How much investments are going there? How many jobs, jobs, we are not talking of token jobs, are being created at the local government area, attracting? Where you go, Mark, wherever in your local government area is, you are able to go out, make a telephone call to your colleagues who are in the office, say, I'm going to my farm, and when you are in the farm, you are able to talk. That's communication infrastructure. I'm happy the government came up just recently with a fund for infrastructure. Nigeria needs massive infrastructure, and the target must be local government areas. Governance in the local government areas, accountability begins there. And when it begins and people are defending and loving and owning their local government area, there's nothing, people will not allow certain things to come and compromise their own. They feel the sense of belonging right there. And I'm telling you, if they do it very well, most people will not be stripping into town as we're doing now. When we were growing in the 70s, the development decades of the United Global Development Decades, we all heard of local, rural, urban migration. How do we tilt? We said so many things. Where are we there, Mark? Where are the development plans? 5-year development plans that we are doing, analyzing and saying, this is, in the 4 years, this is how many jobs we are going to churn out. Not just the ones that we are talking for political reasons, but real jobs are creating and connecting all the loose ends. I think this is one thing. Once we begin to look at it from the positive, what I said, the positive side, say, look, we need to begin to rebuild our structures. Nigeria already has it. It has been empty. Let us put the flesh and all what it takes in the local governance area structures. By the time the local governance are functioning very well, we will then begin to see the rationale, how the functional local government areas are feeding into the state level structures. So it shouldn't be the top down. Top down would be, of course, there will be one of the ways to be looking, because it must be, there must be accountability, top down and bottom up, but then it must be from the ground. This is where the democracy is anchored, and I think upon reflection, let us look and reflect and say, why is it that our local governance is not functioning? Even when you are talking about the incidents that are happening now, we cannot know because there are no structures on the ground where we can talk. The hospital, we should need to talk and say, but in this hospital, the structure, the police structures, the postal services, the schools, and things that should be functioning and giving us a real life. Like you go to any other part of the world, the local structure is that people will be happy because there's no congestion, people are moving very freely, but they have all the facilities that you and I have in town? Do we have those structures in our rural areas? This is the question we need to ask.
All right. Cardinal, I'm sure that our communication source is much better now. Let's go back to where you stopped the last time, and let's look at it. You have been involved for very many years, in fact for decades, in the peace building process in Nigeria. As of today, those who are in power and authority at various levels, who should be the ones carrying forward the messages and the efforts that you and your colleagues have put in over the years, are throwing brickbats at each other. You will see governors from one part of the country talking down on other governors at the other part of the country. You will see political leaders accusing some other political leaders of fostering crises in one part of the country or the other. Now, the question is how can people like you, mobilizing others, begin to help to reorientate and begin to galvanize this peace building process?
Thank you very much. Perhaps let me a little bit observe what my colleague in the studio has just brilliantly outlined about the necessity of serious, effective government at the local level. He has done a very wonderful diagnosis, in my own opinion, of the basic problem with our present setup. What all he has said now boils down more or less to what many Nigerians have been talking about: structure. And when they talk of restructuring, we are not just talking about whether one state or two states, or how the center relates to the periphery, but that the whole structure has been very badly bastardized in the process of different constitutional manipulations. So we are back to even the old question of what kind of constitution we are running now. I seem to agree with those who say, even if you bring Angel Michael to come and be president of Nigeria, and you give him this constitution that we have on our hands, he will still have problems running the country. But those who are in power now, do they really agree? And even the efforts at constitutional review, are they really facing the real issues? Some people are suggesting, and I seem to believe them, that those who are in government, who have entered government with this constitution, don't want it changed because they don't want to disorganize the system that brought them into power. That's another issue. Coming to your question, sir, about peace building in the country. Before the line cut, I was saying, if things were normal, what happens is you have election, hoping that the elections are free and fair, and you have a set of people elected to run government. And we would then have to leave that set of people to run the government for the next 4 years, when there will be yet another election and an opportunity for Nigerians to assess them and to decide whether they should go on for another term or whether they should go aside and let's have another set of people. That's what is happening in all civilized nations. Now, my fear, which seems to be be the case with that many people are saying, is that Nigeria right now, as we are talking now, 22nd of February 2021, we are not in normal circumstances. Even the issues of local government remains presently irrelevant to the problem we have on our hands. That is why it is even difficult for anybody or any group of people to intervene. Let me give a typical example. When the political parties were at each other's throats, and the former president, Abubakar, led a group which started actually in the Jonathan era, which has now acquired a big name, the the Peace Council, National Peace Council. And the group boomed in, moving from one group to the other, trying to help them to accept first a common base of what is best for Nigeria, on which there can be no argument. There certainly must be some non-negotiable common ground for all of us Nigerians to work for, namely a government that is just, that it is fair, that helps Nigerians to be, that helps Nigerians of every part of this country to thrive and to seek happiness. Everybody should agree with that. Once you agree with that, and we are only talking about logistics, how to arrive at that, who will do it and who will not do it, then there is room for discussion. There is room for what you might consider dialogue. I hope we have time to talk about the dialogue with bandits and with criminals. But this is dialogue not with criminals, but with organized, respectable groups that we know who is who and what we are talking about. In those circumstances, a group like the National Peace Council is useful, and we have tried our best. How useful we were is another matter. But that kind of group cannot address the issue we have on our hands now, where all kinds of criminals scattered all over the country seem to be operating freely in a way that you don't have a leadership. Even though we kept talking about, for example, the Fulani herdsmen, but we have been told that the Fulani herdsmen are not the Fulani people of Nigeria that we might say are under the Sultan of Sokoto. These herdsmen are other group of people. So whom do we talk to? And therefore, the country has reached a difficult stage. And what we are doing now and what AIT is doing now, giving forum for some of us to express our sincere, deeply felt feelings, is one way forward, hoping that other people will listen. And if one contribution is made, another one will be made. And we're back again. Let me go back to this position. We must agree for a common ground of what we want Nigeria to be. Then we can find a way of achieving it. Otherwise, we would be, as somebody said, we'll be doing brick-brack against one another. And when government agencies are even at loggerheads, when a state governor makes a rule which he believes is best for the state, and the federal government has a different attitude altogether, sabotaging those efforts, how do we expect to move forward? Are we not in one country? Is it impossible that federal government, state governments work together, accept and agree on the way forward to tackle our common challenges? This is the problem. And I think it is possible, and I believe it is not too late. And I think for progress to be made, a few people will need to think seriously and change their attitude and their way of looking at things. There is need for, in the Christian language, there will be need for repentance. Repentance that we've done things wrong, we want to do it better. I'm not asking anybody to even beg for forgiveness for treating us badly. We don't mind about that, but at least admit that you have not treated us well enough and say, how can we do better? And it's no need continue to pretend that you are a government. If you are government, then why can't you handle bandits? Government should be able. The government has the force. You have both the police force, you have the armed forces, you have all the forces. We have nothing. We are just, the citizens have become sitting ducks. And I think this is not the right kind of place to be in. For a country like Nigeria, recognized as the biggest Black nation in the world, the rest of Africa, Africans whom we meet regularly are looking up to us. That if we do not rise up, there's no chance for any of them to rise up. And we keep disappointing them year in, year out. My prayer is that we have reached a stage now where there is no more room for pretense. and playing big when we are not really doing the right thing. There is no shortcut to good governance. No shortcut. It must pass through the normal channels of good governance.
Cardinal,
I don't know whether the line was open.
Yes, we're still with you, Cardinal. Please go ahead.
Okay. Well, the other point I want to raise seriously is, and because I have been quoted, that government should not dialogue with bandits. There are many kinds of dialogue. When armed robbers enter your house and they are armed with guns, you do dialogue with them, I imagine. When you say, please now, don't kill me. What do you want? Take what you want to take. And they cut away a few of your things. And you beg them, please. You even call them, please, sir, please, sir. Is that dialogue? I believe that is not dialogue. The Pope, 2 days ago, made a very interesting statement. He said, you do not dialogue with the devil. That it is dangerous to dialogue with the devil. He was referring to when, according to our Bible, the devil was tempting Jesus. He said, Jesus did not dialogue with him. Rather, Jesus invoked the power and the word of God on the devil for every issue that he raised. He even went as far as to say it was the mistake of our mother Eve in the Garden of Eden, that Eve made a mistake by trying to dialogue with the devil. That is why she went the way she went, followed by her husband, and the rest of us, according to Christian doctrine, are suffering the consequence. Now, the whole question of you don't dialogue with the devil, to put it bluntly, you have a criminal. What kind of dialogue do you have with a criminal? Unless it is a dialogue where the criminal agrees that, sorry, I have done the wrong thing. A group of people organize themselves, set up roadblocks, stop buses, cast people away into the bush, and sit there asking for ransom. What kind of, how can we deal with those people except to say we have given up? We are unable to handle our country, so please help, be kind to us and allow our boys to go. When I find that we have to go begging them to allow the children to go, and then they do the wrong thing, and then you beg them, and then they begin to feel important. And it is more sad when there are respectable people around who seem to be supporting what is happening. That leaves the country very terribly divided. And so I do believe that there are occasions where dialogue may just mean doing your best to not to get badly beaten. But when you are talking of government dealing with criminals, no matter how many they are, it's a different story. By the way, the dialogue we are hearing that took place with Boko Haram, we don't know the details of that dialogue, but it seems to have been generally dialogue with people who left the Boko Haram and claim that they have repented. I have not seen any serious dialogue with the real leadership of the Boko Haram, which is probably where we might be able to expect any result, because at least the Boko Haram seems to have a structure with leaders. Those leaders have never been part of any dialogue. What we are told is that they are not ready for any dialogue. Okay. But if they are not ready for any dialogue, that means there will be no movement forward. And we have seen that efforts made to talk with so-called repentant Boko Haram people. What we are hearing is that it has not been quite a success. Many of them go back, but many of them stay where they are and are still keeping a link with their brothers in the bush. This kind of situation cannot continue. Wherever they are, is this part of this Nigeria? We should have enough forces to keep our nation safe.
Thank you so much, Cardinal. Thank you. Hopefully, we should be able to get back to you very soon. But back here in the studio, Dr. Sufyan, we're talking now about dialogue. You mentioned earlier on Goal 16 of the SDGs. And that goal talks about or advocates the promotion of peace coexistence and inclusiveness in societies. Inclusiveness here would mean that dialogue will be part of that process. Do you have a feeling that there is enough dialogue going on amongst the elite in Nigeria today, or that there is a further drifting apart, as it were?
Thank you, Mark, and you are very right. Dialogue, whatever we do to achieve peace, is going to be, the vehicle is dialogue. Dialogue, in fact, what is happening, and when the Cardinal speaks and what people are mentioning, the type of dialogue that people are expecting now. For me, when I was thinking about this, I was driving and coming here, I said, this dialogue has become like a metaphor. A metaphor, dialoguing with bandits, and that is also uniting all of us. Have we been dialoguing? If we have been dialoguing, would that have been a possibility that we would have been able to deal with some of these issues even before it is the criminals now who are coming to tell us how to do it? That message is a very strong one that is being sent. Again, like we said in the intro, it gives us an opportunity to look at ourselves on the mirror and say something has gone wrong. How then do we go ahead for it? And I think dialogue is the way forward. Dialogue at all levels of government, Mark. Dialogue of Nigerians around the key critical issues. Not only the issues that are controversial, but dialoguing on also the issues that we need. What type of Nigeria do we want to have in the next 10 years? The type of dialogue. Then people putting their inputs. What are the things that are standing on the way of this, us achieving this? Mark, this is the type of thinking that we should have. Just let me use it. I'm sorry to use that example just to bring back. My boss, the resident coordinator, in 2019, wrote an op-ed on the necessity for continuous dialogue and healing in Nigeria when he listened to the rhetoric that was happening in the country after the 2019 elections. And he pushed forward this agenda that the United Nations has been supporting over the years. National structures for peace. When you say infrastructure, it looks very big words and red. Said, what are the structures in peace here? When something happens like this, we just convene the meeting tomorrow. Say, let's begin to discuss this issue. Do we have such structures? Are there the ad hoc ones that existed? And I'm happy Cardinal is there and he can tell you, have wonderful ideas that they have put in board. But sometimes those ideas remain there because nobody has picked them. Sometimes where they need a legislative, clearance, so that it has a legitimacy and the legality of what they want to do. It ends there. Nigerians, like the Cardinal said, they have the capacity. There are men and women in Nigeria who can sit and do many wonderful things, but they some sort of have, shifted aside, or they have been airballed out of the whole circle. So they discuss Nigerian issues as if it is another country. And we need to, without sentiment, just say, why is it that it's such? Why do they feel this feeling that we do not belong? So how can we begin a new dialogue, a new page in the discussion of letting all Nigerians to say, whether it is in the Northwest, in the Northeast, or the Middle Belt or North Central, it belongs to us. If it has not reached us, it may reach us tomorrow. Then we begin to carve out. And that's why we've been supporting the government, doing many things in the background, to talk about this whole issue of a national peace architecture. You talked about that. You know that there's a document in this country that was already validated at many levels called National Peace Policy that talked of what Nigerians should be doing, how we could bring like a basket fund where everybody puts in, where the accountability will be, the private sector. And each day I see the private sector buying this number of police. I said, maybe we have not understood that the other side, the flip side of security is this one that is built around just about dialogue, where we may not need the millions and the billions, but just dialoguing. Some of the issues that are happening here, if they were dialogue, we'll have done lots of things just by talking to one another. And I'm really using this opportunity to say, maybe we need to reflect on it. 2018, Mark, there was a bill that was being pushed in the National Assembly on the creation of a national commission for peace, reconciliation, and mediation of dialogue. Of course, mediation means dialogue. It went on. But because of somehow something happened, it was clear, but it never went through. I think this is the moment for Nigeria to say, let's look at, we made mistakes, and we must accept that we have made mistakes. And maybe approaches have not worked. But how then can we bring in? And there are lots of things that are coming in. We just have the new chiefs of services. They are asking the people to say, what is it we can do better? This is the moment for us to, take that hand that they are stretching out and do it. I know that people are emotional, but this is not only also a moment to remain in emotions. We need to move out of the emotions and say, what then can we do to do it better? And Mark, before you go, I wanted to come back to what I said before. When we talk about structural, looking at the root causes, anytime you ask the second question, how, you will realize that it boils down to governance. Governance. So the governance deficit and the development deficit. When there was this attack in Borno the other time, and the governor came out and said, you know what? More than 25 years, there's no single road that has been repaired and all this other issue. Can you imagine that? That it is the infrastructure. Before any intervention can be done, you need that infrastructure.
Exactly.
So how can we do wishful thinking? And for me, I quickly said, how can we do this? Somebody said, how can you construct roads in a war situation? But I learned something in Ethiopia before I go, which was very interesting. Ethiopia, after the revolution, many parts of the country were under siege. And there was no way a company could bid and come and do road construction. The military engineering part of the Ethiopian army, that's when it came to the limelight. As I'm talking to you today, they win contracts like any other contract in road construction because they are perfect. They knew that only the military engineering road construction can go into some of these areas with a uniform and the military arsenal. They will defend themselves, but they also construct schools, they'll construct the roads. And it worked. That's a lesson I learned, and the Mozambican and the Angolan people taught with the same.
And that's a lesson that many other African countries can learn. But just before we go, Cardinal, I'd like to ask you, what is your message today? What's your final message for Nigeria, for Nigerians, for our leaders, and for everyone concerned?
Thank you very much. My message is this. We should not wait for everybody in Nigeria to behave very well before we take a correct path for nation building. There will always be bandits and robbers and kidnappers operating. That's not the problem. The problem is that they should not take over and become the government instead of those we have elected to rule us. The major issue to me is, do we believe in the Nigeria project? Is it viable? Is it desirable? My fear is that many Nigerians have lost trust and confidence and even desire for one Nigeria. Otherwise, how do we explain all these the projects we are hearing about? We want to go on our own, east, south, west, and not enough effort made to bring us together. Diversity will always be there, and we should be able to handle our diversity. Many of us believe that Nigeria as a project is both viable, possible, and desirable. But when we talk about building one united nation country under God, we must admit that this comes with a cost. It costs a lot to bring diverse people together. And the cost includes being able to respect one another, to set up a system that is fair for everybody, where the feeling of partiality, nepotism is not constantly being fueled by every new appointment. This is the situation. And the more that is happening, the more people lose any guts to maintain and pay the price of our unity. But we must not give up, because if we do not pay the price for unity, the price for disunity is much, much higher, much more bloody, much more chaotic. And as a religious person, I have been praying and begging God to lead us so that we don't lead ourselves to that chaos, whereas we could easily, with a little bit of goodwill, look at each other as Nigerians, human beings. All of us have the same blood running through our veins. We are not different kind of species of human beings. And we have seen that in normal circumstances, we work together. And we should not allow the champions of tribal warlords to take charge of things. That is where the question of dialogue even comes up. It's good to have all these ethno-cultural groups, but if they are not there to promote Nigerian unity, then they become an obstacle. And if they are not interested in talking to other groups and having what Dr. Barak has said, a proper dialogue at all levels. So in conclusion, my message to our country is, Nigerians, please continue to believe in yourself and in your ability to run one United Nations under God. Secondly, those of you who God have put in place, who have all the powers and all the authority to direct the country in this way, you must do your duty. You have no excuse. And if you don't do your duty and you run our nation aground, you will not escape God's judgment. I am not, I don't normally curse people. I'm not cursing anybody, but I'm only saying nothing goes free. If you don't do your duty well and lead our country in the direction that will lead us to a nation where we can all live be proud to live and move freely, then it will be a great disaster for all of us. This is what we are praying for, and may the Lord God answer us. We are in our Christian religion, we are presently in the season of Lent. That is preparation for Easter, but also the season when we repent. We are all looking at ourselves individually, seeing how can we do better? What are the things we have been doing that we need to reform and do better? I think every Nigerian should be in this spirit of Lent.
Thank
God
you
bless
very
you,
much,
Amari, for calling me to this. And may God bless our friend from the United Nations. You have spoken very clearly.
Thank you very much, Cardinal John Onaikan, former Metropolitan Archbishop of Abuja, former President, Christian Association of Nigeria, author of Seeking Common Grounds, Interreligious Dialogue, and of course, one person who has been very, very active in peace building across the length and breadth of Nigeria. Thank you very much, Your Eminence, for giving us your time on the program today. And Dr. Takwa Zebulon Soifon is the Development Advisor to the United Nations Resident Coordinator and the UN system in Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time and for coming. Before we go, let me leave you with these words, the words of Martin Luther King, who said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." My name is Imoni Amarere. Do have yourself a wonderful time for the rest of today and the week. We will see you again on Friday when we bring you a fresh edition of the program. Bye for now.